Thinking object-oriented. Introduction. Object-oriented programming has become extremely popular in the past few years. Software producers are eager to release object-oriented versions of their products. Innumerable volumes and special issues of academic and trade journals have appeared related to the subject. In this chapter, we will explain the basic principles of object-oriented programming, and by doing so, the following two propositions are illustrated. Object-oriented programming is a revolutionary idea, a rare one among those which have come before in programming. Object-oriented programming is an evolutionary step naturally following the footsteps of the earlier programming abstractions. Why is object-oriented programming popular? There are several important reasons for the object-oriented programming to become the dominant programming paradigm in the past 2 decades. Object-oriented programming is widely used to solve complex tasks. It provides a form of abstraction that apply with the techniques with which people use to solve problems in their day-to-day life. Object-oriented techniques are mainly used to create the complex software systems. Even though the best tools are available to become proficient in programming languages requires several aspects like talent, creativity, intelligence, logic, the ability to build and use abstractions, and experience. Object-oriented programming is a novel way of thinking about what it means to compute about how we can structure information and impart our intentions both to each other and to the machine.
A new paradigm. Object-oriented programming is frequently identified as a new programming paradigm. Paradigm. It is a distinct set of concepts or thought patterns or example of something. The word also used to mean the model that hold about a particular area of knowledge. Other programming paradigms include the imperative programming paradigm, languages such as Pascal or C. The logic programming paradigm, Prolog. The functional programming paradigm, ML or Haskell.
A way of viewing the world. Real-world example. Sharma wishes to send flowers to a friend named Ram, who lives in another city. He cannot simply pick the flowers and take them to Ram in person due to distance. So Sharma simply walks to a nearby flower shop run by a florist named Verma. Sharma will tell Verma the kinds of flowers to send to Ram and the address to which they should be delivered. Verma sends a message to another florist in the city where Ram lives. The Ram's florist has a subordinate who makes a flower arrangement. The florist in Ram's city gets flowers from a flower wholesaler who had interaction with the flower growers, each of whom had to manage a team of gardeners. The florist then passes the flowers along with yet another message to a delivery person.
And finally, the delivery person delivers the flowers to Ram.
Object-oriented programming has a collection of interacting agents called objects. Each object plays their role. Each object provides a service which is used by other members of the community. Messages and methods. A method in object-oriented programming is a process associated with the class. A method defines the behavior of the objects that are produced from the class. The transmission of a message to an agent, that is an object, responsible for the action initiates the action in object-oriented programming. The message encodes the request for an action and is tagged along by an additional information, that is arguments, needed to carry out the request. The object to whom the message is sent is the receiver. If the receiver accepts the message, the responsibility to carry out the indicated action is accepted. As a response to a message, the receiver shall implement some method to satisfy the request. There is an important principle of information hiding in regard to message passing. That is, the actual means by which the request will be honored need not be exposed to the client who is sending the request. There is a designated receiver in message passing, and the selection of a method to execute in response to the message may vary. For any given message, the specific receiver will not be known until runtime, so until then the determination of which method to invoke cannot be made. Responsibilities. Describing the behavior in terms of responsibilities is a fundamental concept in object-oriented programming. The level of abstraction is increased by discussing a problem in terms of responsibilities. This permits a greater independence between objects, a critical factor in solving complex problems. The entire collection of responsibilities associated with an object is often described by the term protocol. Data structure, that is, objects, are requested by an object-oriented program to perform a service. Classes and instances. All objects are instances of a class. The class of the receiver determines the method invoked by an object in response to a message. In response to similar messages, all objects of a given class use the same method.
Example. In the previous example, although Sharma has only dealt with Verma a few times, Sharma has a rough idea of the transaction that will occur inside Verma's flower shop. Sharma is able to certain speculations based on his previous experience with the other florist, and hence Sharma can expect that Verma, being an instance of this category, will fit the general pattern. To represent the category of all florists, we can use the term florist. In this example, florist represents a class. Verma is one of the florists, and hence he represents an object that is an instance of a class florist.
Class hierarchies, inheritance. Classes can be organized into hierarchical inheritance structure. A child class is a subclass which inherits attributes from a parent class which is higher in the tree. A parent class is a superclass. This figure shows the classification from the field of biology listed in a hierarchical tree-like structure with more abstract classes, that is parent class, listed near the top of the tree, and more specific classes, that is child class, and finally individuals are listed near the bottom of the tree. Method binding and overriding. Binding is the association between method and class. Information present in a subclass can override information inherited from a parent class. Most often, implementation of this approach takes the form of a method in a subclass having the same name as a method in the parent class, combined with a rule for how the search for a method to match a specific message is conducted. With the class of the receiver, the search for a method to invoke in response to a given message begins. The search is conducted in the parent class of this class if no appropriate method is found. The search continues up towards the parent class chain until either a method is found or the parent class chain is exhausted. If methods with the same name can be found higher in the class hierarchy, the method executed is said to override the inherited behavior. Summary. Summary of object-oriented concept. Everything is an object. Computation is performed by objects communicating with each other, requesting that other objects perform actions. Objects communicate through sending and receiving messages. A request for action bundled with whatever arguments may be necessary to complete the task is a message. Each object has its own memory which consists of other objects. Every object is a specimen of a class. A class simply represents a grouping of similar objects such as integers or lists. The class describes the behavior or state associated with an object. That is, all objects that are examples of the same class can perform the same actions. Classes are organized into singly rooted structure called the inheritance hierarchy.
Memory and behavior associated with instances of a class are automatically available to any class associated with a descendant in this tree structure.